Focus on yourself and shock everyone, not by noise, not by force, not by proving anything to the world, but by quietly becoming so aligned within that your life begins to reflect a power that others cannot explain. There is a silent revolution that happens the moment you turn your attention away from chasing approval, away from trying to control people, away from begging circumstances to change, and instead bring all your awareness back to the only place where transformation is ever possible, your inner world. Most people spend their lives watching others, measuring themselves against others, worrying about opinions, reactions, judgments, and comparisons. They wake up thinking about who said what, who did what, who is ahead, who is behind. But the one who truly rises is the one who stops looking outward and begins to look inward with intensity, discipline, and faith. When you focus on yourself, you are not becoming selfish, you are becoming powerful. Because the world you experience is not truly outside of you. It is a mirror, a projection, a reflection of your dominant assumptions, your emotional patterns, and your persistent beliefs about who you are. And when you understand this, everything changes. Suddenly you realize you do not need to fight the world. You only need to transform your inner state. You do not need to convince people, you only need to convince yourself. You do not need to chase opportunities, you need to become the person to whom opportunities naturally come. There is something extraordinary that happens when a person withdraws their energy from distraction. Think of how much energy is wasted every single day on overthinking others, replaying conversations, worrying about opinions, and comparing journeys. All that energy is creative power being misused. But when you reclaim that energy and direct it toward your own growth, your own imagination, your own mental discipline, it begins to build an invisible momentum. And this momentum eventually expresses itself in ways that surprise everyone around you. People often ask how to shock everyone. They imagine dramatic actions, sudden displays, loud announcements. But the real shock is quiet. It is the person who disappears into self-focus and returns transformed. It is the one who stops arguing and starts building, the one who stops complaining and starts imagining, the one who stops reacting and starts creating. And when they emerge, their life speaks so loudly that no explanation is needed. Focusing on yourself means becoming deeply aware of your inner conversations. Because whether you realize it or not, you are always talking to yourself. You are always imagining, you are always assuming something about your future. And those assumptions are not harmless. They are creative forces shaping your reality. If you constantly imagine failure, rejection, and limitation, life arranges itself to confirm those expectations. But when you discipline your mind to imagine success, respect, and fulfillment, life begins to mirror that as well. The truth is, you do not become successful by trying to force the outer world to change. You become successful by consistently occupying the inner state of the person you want to be. You think from that identity, you feel from that identity, and as you remain loyal to that inner state, the outer world reorganizes itself around you. This is why focusing on yourself shocks everyone. Because most people are conditioned to react. They react to criticism, react to negativity, react to circumstances. But the one who focuses inward stops reacting. They become calm, they become centered, they become stable. And that stability itself is shocking in a chaotic world. Imagine someone who once doubted themselves constantly, someone who sought approval from everyone, someone who feared failure. Now imagine that person deciding to turn inward, to stop seeking validation, to stop explaining themselves, to stop chasing external proof, and instead commit to building unshakable belief within. At first, nothing changes outwardly, but inside something powerful begins to grow, a quiet certainty. And that certainty eventually expresses itself in confidence, in decisions, in opportunities, in results. People will ask, "What happened to you?" They will think you found some secret outside, but the truth is, you found your power within. Focusing on yourself means becoming the observer of your thoughts. Instead of being controlled by them, it means catching negative assumptions before they take root. It means deliberately choosing thoughts that align with the version of yourself you intend to become. It means practicing mental discipline even when circumstances appear unchanged. Because the moment you change your inner state, the process has already begun, even if the outer world has not yet caught up. Most people quit too early because they judge progress by external results. But real transformation always begins invisibly. It begins in imagination, it begins in belief, it begins in feeling, and only later does it appear in physical reality. When you truly focus on yourself, you stop chasing time. You stop worrying about how long something takes. You understand that persistence in the inner world inevitably produces change in the outer world. There is a kind of confidence that comes from focusing on yourself that cannot be faked. It is not arrogance, it is not loud, it is not aggressive. It is calm, steady, and deeply rooted. It is the confidence of someone who knows that their inner state creates their outer experience. And this confidence alone shocks people, because the world expects you to doubt yourself. It expects you to seek approval. It expects you to be affected by negativity. But when you stand unmoved, focused entirely on your own growth, your own vision, your own mental discipline, you become unpredictable to others. You become powerful. Focusing on yourself also means taking full responsibility for your life, not blaming circumstances, not blaming others, not blaming the past, but recognizing that your assumptions, your beliefs, and your inner conversations have played a major role in shaping your experiences. This is not a burden, it is liberation. Because if you created your past unconsciously, you can create your future consciously. The moment you accept this responsibility, you stop feeling like a victim of life. You begin to feel like the creator of it. And creators do not waste time comparing. They do not waste time complaining. They do not waste time proving themselves. They simply build. When you focus on yourself, you also develop emotional independence. You stop relying on others to feel worthy, confident, or happy. You generate those feelings within yourself. And this independence is extremely attractive because it radiates strength and stability. People are drawn to those who are internally fulfilled. They can sense when someone is not desperate for validation. They can sense when someone is centered. They can sense when someone carries a quiet certainty about their path. And that presence alone shocks them. Because it is rare. Most people are scattered. Most people are distracted. Most people are controlled by external events. But the one who focuses inward becomes concentrated, disciplined, and unstoppable. Your imagination becomes your greatest tool. Instead of worrying about problems, you begin to imagine solutions. Instead of replaying failures, you begin to imagine success. Instead of fearing rejection, you begin to imagine acceptance. And as you repeatedly return to these constructive inner images, they begin to feel natural. And once something feels natural within, it begins to manifest without. Focusing on yourself is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is about mastering your inner world so completely that your outer world begins to reflect that mastery. It is about becoming so aligned with your vision that distractions lose their power over you. It is about becoming so rooted in belief that doubt can not shake you. And when you reach this state, you do not need to shock anyone intentionally. Your transformation does it automatically. People will remember the version of you who doubted, who struggled, who hesitated. And when they see the version of you who is calm, confident, and successful, they will be amazed. But what they do not see is the quiet work that happened within, the discipline of thought, the persistence of imagination, the loyalty to a new identity even when the outer world showed no evidence. That is the real secret. You shock everyone not by sudden action, but by sustained inner focus, not by proving yourself outwardly, but by transforming yourself inwardly. And when you truly understand this, you will stop chasing the world. You will start creating it. You begin to notice that when your attention is fully placed upon your own inner state, life stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a canvas. Instead of waking up with tension, wondering what will go wrong, you awaken with a quiet authority, knowing that what you consistently assume and feel will eventually take form. This shift alone changes the entire rhythm of your days. You no longer rush into the world seeking reassurance. You enter the day already rooted in a sense of inner certainty. Focusing on yourself means becoming extremely selective about where your attention goes. Attention is not just a passive act, it is creative energy. Wherever you place it repeatedly, you give it life. If you give attention to problems, they grow. If you give attention to fear, it strengthens. If you give attention to criticism, it multiplies. But when you deliberately choose to give attention to your vision, your growth, and your desired identity, you begin to cultivate a reality that mirrors that focus. There is a profound difference between living reactively and living intentionally. Most people live reactively. They allow circumstances to dictate their mood, other people's behavior to dictate their confidence, and temporary setbacks to dictate their sense of worth. But when you focus inward, you stop reacting automatically. You begin to respond from a chosen state of being. You ask yourself not what is happening, but who am I choosing to be in this moment? And this question alone has immense power, because the moment you choose who you are being, you step into creation rather than reaction. The world is deeply conditioned to believe that results come first and confidence follows. But the truth is the opposite. Confidence must be established internally before results can appear externally. And focusing on yourself means practicing that inner confidence even when the outer world does not yet reflect it. It means feeling worthy before you receive recognition. It means feeling secure before circumstances stabilize. It means feeling successful before evidence appears. This inner loyalty to your desired identity is what creates the conditions for external transformation. Many people fail to shock others because they keep looking outward for proof. Before committing inwardly, they wait for validation before believing in themselves. They wait for results before claiming success mentally. But the one who truly transforms understands that belief must precede evidence. So they focus relentlessly on cultivating the inner experience of already being who they want to become. They rehearse success in their imagination. They speak to themselves as the person they intend to be. They carry themselves internally with the emotional tone of fulfillment. And over time, this inner consistency begins to alter their external circumstances. Focusing on yourself also means letting go of the habit of seeking permission. Most people subconsciously wait for approval from family, from society, from friends, before fully stepping into their potential. But when you focus inward, you stop asking for permission to grow. You grant it to yourself. You understand that your vision does not need universal agreement. It only needs your persistent belief. You stop explaining your dreams to those who cannot see them. You stop defending your path to those who doubt it. You become quietly committed, internally anchored, and deeply focused. And this quiet commitment is powerful because it eliminates energy leaks. You are no longer scattering your attention, trying to convince others. You are concentrating it entirely on becoming. As this focus deepens, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel less affected by external opinions. Criticism loses its sting. Praise loses its power to inflate your ego. Both become neutral because your sense of identity no longer depends on them. You become self-defined rather than externally defined. And this self-definition is one of the most shocking transformations anyone can witness. Because the world is full of people who are easily swayed by approval and rejection. When someone stands firm regardless of both, they appear almost unshakable. Focusing on yourself also strengthens your patience. You stop demanding immediate results because you understand that inner change unfolds through consistency. You trust the process. You remain faithful to your mental discipline even during periods when nothing appears to be changing outwardly. This patience is not passive. It is active trust. It is the confidence that every moment you spend cultivating the right inner state is building an invisible momentum that must eventually express itself. Most people quit because they look for visible progress too soon. They abandon their focus because the outer world has not yet shifted. But the one who truly transforms understands that reality is always catching up to inner assumptions. So they persist. They persist in seeing themselves differently. They persist in feeling differently. They persist in thinking differently. And gradually, the outer world begins to reflect that inner shift. You begin to notice subtle changes first, small improvements, unexpected opportunities. Slightly D. Fervent reactions from others. These are signs that your inner transformation is already influencing your outer environment. And as you continue focusing inward, these small shifts grow into larger changes. Your confidence becomes more visible. Your decisions become more decisive. Your actions become more aligned. And your results begin to speak for themselves. People often believe that shocking others requires dramatic action. But in truth, the most shocking transformation is quiet consistency. It is the person who steadily becomes stronger, clearer, and more confident over time, without announcing it. They do not talk about their focus. They embody it. They do not declare their growth. It becomes evident. They do not seek recognition. It naturally comes to them. Focusing on yourself also means developing emotional discipline. You stop allowing temporary feelings to control long-term direction. You learn to stabilize your inner state, even when faced with challenges. Instead of collapsing into fear, you return to belief. Instead of dwelling on setbacks, you return to vision. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond deliberately. This emotional mastery creates a sense of inner calm that others can feel in your presence. It is the calm of someone who is not at war with themselves or the world. And that calm alone is powerful enough to change how people perceive you. When you truly focus on yourself, you begin to realize that the greatest competition you ever had was never with others. It was with your own past assumptions. It was with your own doubts, your own fears, your own limitations. And once you start overcoming those internally, the external competition becomes irrelevant. Because you are no longer trying to be better than others. You are becoming better than your previous self. This internal focus eliminates jealousy. It eliminates comparison. T eliminates insecurity. You no longer measure your progress by where others are. You measure it by how far you have come within yourself. And this shift creates a profound sense of freedom. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more purposeful. Your energy becomes concentrated rather than scattered. Your mind becomes focused rather than distracted. Your emotions become stable rather than reactive. And as this inner stability grows, your outer life begins to mirror it in increasingly visible ways. You start attracting circumstances that match your new self-concept. You start encountering opportunities that align with your inner vision. You start meeting people who reflect your elevated sense of identity. All of this happens not because you forced it externally, but because you cultivated it internally. And this is why focusing on yourself shocks everyone. It operates through a silent, invisible process that most people do not understand. They see only the result. They do not see the inner discipline behind it. They see only the success. They do not see the persistent mental focus that created it. They see only the confidence. They do not see the countless moments when you chose belief over doubt. And because they cannot see the inner process, the outer transformation appears sudden, almost magical. But you know the truth. It was never sudden. It was built moment by moment through focused attention, disciplined imagination, and unwavering commitment to becoming the person you chose to be within. And as you continue to place your awareness inward, you begin to realize that your inner world is not something vague or abstract. It is precise, structured, and deeply responsive. Every thought you repeat becomes a pattern. Every feeling you sustain becomes a signal. Every assumption you accept becomes a blueprint. When you understand this, you stop treating your mind carelessly. You stop allowing random fears to dominate your imagination. You stop entertaining conversations within yourself that weaken your identity. Instead, you begin to guard your inner world with intention. You become conscious of the images you allow yourself to dwell upon. You deliberately choose to picture yourself succeeding rather than struggling. You intentionally feel the emotional tone of confidence rather than insecurity. And this deliberate control of your inner atmosphere begins to create a powerful sense of authority within you. It becomes clear that focusing on yourself is not merely about personal improvement. It is about reclaiming authorship over your experience of life. You begin to see that every moment offers a choice to react from old patterns or to respond from your chosen identity. Each time you choose the latter, you strengthen the new version of yourself. At first, this discipline may feel challenging. Your mind may attempt to return to familiar habits of doubt and worry. But the more consistently you redirect your attention, the easier it becomes. Just like any muscle, your mental focus strengthens through repeated use. And over time, what once required effort becomes natural. You begin to notice a shift in your daily awareness. Instead of constantly scanning the outside world for signs of approval or threat, you begin to observe your inner state more closely. You ask yourself questions that most people never consider. What am I assuming about myself right now? What emotional state am I living from in this moment? Is this inner conversation helping me become who I want to be? Or is it keeping me tied to an old identity? These questions bring clarity, and clarity brings power. Because once you see your inner patterns clearly, you can change them deliberately. Focusing on yourself also means understanding the immense, creative power of feeling. Thoughts alone are not enough. It is the emotional tone behind them that gives them life. When you imagine your desired future with genuine feeling, when you allow yourself to feel the relief, the confidence, the joy of already being that person, you send a powerful signal to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind does not distinguish between imagination and reality. It responds to what you feel as though it is already true. It begins to adjust your perceptions, your decisions, and your behaviors to align with that emotional assumption. This is why sustained focus inward eventually produces outward transformation. You are not merely thinking differently. You are becoming internally aligned with a new identity. And identity is the foundation of all consistent action and all lasting results. As this alignment deepens, you begin to experience a new kind of self-trust. You trust your inner vision even when others do not understand it. You trust your process even when progress appears slow. You trust your ability to remain focused regardless of distractions. This self-trust is profoundly stabilizing. It removes the constant need to seek reassurance. It quiets the noise of comparison. It allows you to move forward with steady confidence rather than emotional turbulence. And people notice this stability. They may not understand where it comes from, but they can feel it. They sense that you are no longer easily shaken. They see that you are not constantly reacting to external events. They observe that you carry a quiet composure that seems independent of circumstances. This composure itself becomes one of the most shocking aspects of your transformation. Because in a world driven by urgency and reaction, calm focus stands out dramatically. Focusing on yourself also means redefining what progress truly means. Instead of measuring success solely by external achievements, you begin to measure it by internal growth. You notice how much more disciplined your thoughts have become. You observe how quickly you can now redirect yourself from negativity back into constructive focus. You recognize how much more stable your emotional state has become compared to the past. These internal victories are not small. They are the foundation upon which all visible success is built. And as you continue strengthening this foundation, your outer achievements begin to grow naturally from it. You start making decisions from confidence rather than fear. You begin pursuing opportunities without hesitation. You approach challenges with a problem-solving mindset instead of a defensive one. All of this happens because your internal focus has shifted your baseline state of being. You are no longer operating from doubt, you are operating from certainty. You are no longer acting from insecurity, you are acting from self-assurance. You are no longer driven by comparison, you are guided by purpose. This internal transformation changes the quality of your actions. And when the quality of your actions changes, the quality of your results must also change. People who once overlooked you may begin to notice your presence differently. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy has become concentrated. You speak with more clarity. You move with more intention. You carry yourself with quiet confidence. And this shift in presence often surprises others more than any external achievement could. Focusing on yourself also leads to a profound understanding of detachment. You begin to care deeply about your vision while simultaneously releasing the need to control how and when it unfolds. You do your inner work consistently, but you do not obsess over outcomes. You trust that your sustained focus is enough to set the process in motion. This balance between commitment and detachment creates emotional freedom. You are no longer trapped in cycles of anxiety about results. You remain focused on maintaining the right inner state rather than constantly worrying about external timelines. And this freedom allows your creativity to expand. Your mind becomes more open to new ideas. Your intuition becomes clearer. You begin to notice opportunities that you previously overlooked. This heightened awareness is a natural result of sustained inward focus. You are no longer distracted by constant comparison or emotional turbulence, so your perception sharpens. You can see possibilities more clearly. You can act more decisively. Over time, this clarity compounds. Each focused day builds upon the previous one. Each disciplined moment strengthens your inner foundation. And gradually, you reach a point where your new identity feels completely natural. You no longer have to remind yourself to think confidently. It becomes automatic. You no longer have to force positive assumptions. They arise spontaneously. You no longer struggle to maintain focus. It becomes your default state. At this stage, the transformation becomes undeniable. The gap between who you once were and who you have become is so significant that others cannot ignore it. They see the consistency in your behavior. They see the results emerging in your life. And what shocks them most is not the speed of the change, but the depth of it. Because your transformation is not superficial. It is not temporary. It is rooted in a completely different way of relating to yourself and to reality. You have shifted from seeking external validation to generating internal certainty. You have shifted from reacting to circumstances to shaping them through your inner state. You have shifted from scattered attention to concentrated focus, and this shift continues to unfold with every moment you choose to place your awareness inward rather than outward, with every decision to maintain loyalty to your chosen identity, with every quiet act of mental discipline that strengthens the foundation of the life you are deliberately creating. As this inner focus becomes your natural way of living, you start to notice something subtle yet powerful. You no longer feel pulled in 100 different directions. Your mind, which once wandered constantly between worries about the past and fears about the future, begins to settle into a steady present awareness. You are not lost in distractions anymore. You are not mentally chasing people, outcomes, or approval. Instead, you feel centered within yourself, like a calm point in the middle of movement. This centeredness creates a new relationship with time. You stop feeling rushed even when you are busy. You stop feeling behind even when others appear to be ahead. You understand that real progress is not measured by speed, but by alignment. And alignment happens internally first. When your inner world is aligned with your vision, your actions naturally become more efficient, more purposeful, and more impactful. Focusing on yourself also transforms how you handle setbacks. Before, a challenge might have shaken your confidence or caused you to question your abilities. But now you see obstacles differently. Instead of interpreting them as signs of failure, you see them as temporary rearrangements within a larger process that is still moving in your favor. You understand that outer events do not define you. Your inner state does. So when difficulties arise, you do not collapse into fear or frustration. You return to your focus. You remind yourself of the identity you have chosen. You maintain the emotional tone of certainty, even when circumstances momentarily contradict it. And this consistency during difficult moments is one of the most powerful forms of inner discipline, because it proves to you that your focus is not dependent on external conditions. It is self-sustained. The more you practice this, the stronger your inner authority becomes. You begin to feel less like someone who is trying to control life and more like someone who is directing it through quiet influence. Your thoughts feel more intentional. Your emotions feel more steady. Your imagination feels more vivid and constructive. You begin to experience moments where you can almost sense reality shifting around your assumptions. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Conversations align in your favor. Circumstances unfold in ways that reflect the inner state you have been cultivating. And each of these moments strengthens your belief even further. You realize that focusing inward is not an abstract concept. It is a practical, creative force that continuously shapes your experiences. Focusing on yourself also deepens your sense of personal identity. You stop defining yourself by temporary roles, labels, or external achievements. Instead, you define yourself by your inner qualities, your resilience, your discipline, your clarity, your faith in your own vision. This shift is profound because external circumstances can change, but inner qualities remain stable. When your identity is rooted internally, you no longer feel threatened by change. You adapt more easily, you remain confident even in unfamiliar situations, because your sense of self does not depend on external stability. As this internal identity strengthens, your interactions with others begin to change as well. You become less reactive in conversations, you listen more calmly, you respond with greater clarity. You do not feel the need to prove yourself or defend your worth constantly. This quiet confidence alters the energy of your relationships. People sense that you are not easily influenced by their opinions or emotional fluctuations. They recognize that you operate from a place of inner certainty rather than external pressure. And this alone often commands respect without you having to demand it. Focusing on yourself also transforms your relationship with comparison. You begin to see clearly that comparing your journey to someone else's is meaningless, because each person's inner world is unique. Their assumptions, their beliefs, their focus, all are different. So you release the habit of measuring your progress against others. Instead, you measure it against your own past. You notice how much calmer you are than before, how much more disciplined your thinking has become, how much more quickly you can return to confidence after moments of doubt. These realizations create a deep sense of pride, not the kind that seeks validation, but the kind that comes from knowing you are growing consistently. And this inner pride fuels even greater focus. Your attention becomes like a beam of light, steady, concentrated, and directed entirely toward your chosen vision. Distractions may still appear, but they no longer hold your attention for long. You have trained yourself to return quickly to your center. This ability to return, to refocus, is one of the most valuable skills you develop, because life will always present shifting circumstances, unexpected challenges, and changing environments. But when your focus is trained inward, you always have a stable reference point to come back to. You always know where your power lies. It lies not in controlling others, not in predicting every outcome, but in maintaining mastery over your own inner state. As this mastery grows, your sense of possibility expands. You begin to imagine bigger goals without fear. Why? Allow yourself to envision a life that once seemed unrealistic, and instead of immediately doubting these visions, you treat them as creative blueprints. You nurture them with consistent attention. You feel them as though they are already part of your identity. You allow them to influence your decisions and actions gradually. And over time, these once distant possibilities begin to feel closer, more tangible, more inevitable. Focusing on yourself also brings a new appreciation for solitude. You no longer see time alone as loneliness or emptiness. You see it as an opportunity to strengthen your connection with your inner world. In quiet moments, you can observe your thoughts more clearly, refine your assumptions, and reinforce your chosen identity. Solitude becomes a place of creation rather than isolation. You begin to enjoy the process of shaping your inner state deliberately. You take satisfaction in noticing your own growth. You find peace in knowing that every moment of focused attention is building momentum, even when the outer world appears unchanged. This quiet satisfaction replaces the restless need for constant external stimulation. You become comfortable with stillness, and in stillness, your awareness deepens even further. You begin to notice subtle emotional shifts within yourself. You can detect when doubt tries to arise, and you can gently redirect your focus before it gains strength. You become skilled at maintaining a constructive inner atmosphere. This skill creates a continuous sense of stability. Your mood is no longer dictated by random events. Your confidence is no longer dependent on temporary successes. Your focus remains steady regardless of fluctuations around you. And as this steadiness becomes visible in your actions and presence, people around you start to recognize a difference that they may not be able to fully explain. Hey, see that you are no longer affected by the same things. that once disturbed you. They observe that you carry yourself with a calm assurance that seems independent of circumstances. This transformation does not come from trying to impress anyone. It comes from consistently choosing to invest your energy inward rather than outward, from repeatedly returning your attention to your own growth, your own vision, and your own inner alignment, moment after moment, day after day, as you continue strengthening the foundation of a life shaped by focused awareness and deliberate self-direction. As this deliberate inward focus becomes a habit, you begin to notice that your mind no longer feels like a crowded room filled with noise. It becomes more like a clear space where thoughts appear calmly and leave just as calmly. You are no longer overwhelmed by constant mental chatter because you have learned to choose which thoughts deserve your attention. This alone creates a sense of mental freedom that most people never experience. You realize that before you began focusing on yourself, much of your stress did not come from real circumstances, but from uncontrolled imagination. You were imagining worst-case scenarios, replaying past mistakes, predicting negative outcomes. But now you have reclaimed that imagination and turned it into a constructive force. Instead of imagining what could go wrong, you imagine what can go right. Instead of replaying failure, you rehearse success. Instead of anticipating rejection, you anticipate acceptance. And because imagination influences emotion, and emotion influences behavior, this shift gradually changes the way you move through life. Your body language becomes more relaxed. Your voice becomes steadier. Your decisions become clearer. You begin to act from expectation rather than hesitation. And people sense this shift immediately, even if they cannot identify its source. Focusing on yourself also brings a deeper awareness of how powerful consistency truly is. You begin to understand that transformation is not created by occasional bursts of motivation, but by repeated, quiet alignment. It is the small daily choices, the decision to redirect a negative thought, the decision to return to your vision, the decision to maintain belief despite doubt, that gradually reshape your identity. Each of these choices may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create an unstoppable momentum. This momentum works silently. It builds beneath the surface of visible reality. It strengthens your confidence little by little, until one day you realize that the person you used to be feels distant, almost unfamiliar. You think differently now. You react differently now. You carry yourself differently now. And this realization brings a powerful sense of inner pride, not the kind that seeks recognition, but the kind that comes from knowing you have transformed yourself through discipline and awareness. Focusing on yourself also changes how you interpret other people's behavior. You no longer take things personally in the same way. When someone criticizes you or doubts you, you do not automatically internalize their words. You understand that their reactions often reflect their own assumptions, fears, and limitations. This understanding creates emotional independence. You stop allowing external opinions to define your inner state. You become selective about which voices you allow to influence your self-concept. And as you do this, your sense of identity becomes more stable, more self-directed. This stability creates a powerful inner calm. It is not the calm of passivity, but the calm of control. You know that regardless of what happens externally, you can always return to your focus, your vision, and your chosen identity. And this knowledge removes a tremendous amount of anxiety from your life. You are no longer afraid of uncertainty because you trust your ability to maintain the right inner state through it. You are no longer afraid of change because your sense of self is not tied to fixed circumstances. You become adaptable, resilient, and quietly confident. As this confidence deepens, your goals begin to expand naturally. You allow yourself to think bigger because you are no longer limited by old assumptions. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You recognize opportunities where you once saw risks. Your focus sharpens your perception. You start noticing connections between your inner assumptions and external events. You see how a shift in your belief leads to a shift in your behavior, which then leads to a shift in results. This awareness strengthens your commitment to maintaining inner discipline. You begin to treat your thoughts as seeds rather than random occurrences. You plant them intentionally, nurture them with feeling, and trust that they will grow in their own time. This patient trust becomes one of your greatest strengths. You stop demanding immediate proof. You stop doubting the process simply because results are not instant. You understand that reality is always responding to your inner state, even when the response is not yet visible. So you remain focused. You remain consistent. You remain loyal to your chosen identity. Over time, this loyalty creates a powerful sense of inevitability. You no longer wonder whether your vision will manifest. You begin to feel that it must, because you have aligned yourself with it so completely. This feeling of inevitability removes hesitation from your actions. You move forward with clarity because you are not divided into. Nally, your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are aligned in the same direction, and when a person reaches this level of inner alignment, their presence becomes extremely impactful. They do not need to speak loudly to be heard. They do not need to demand attention to be noticed. Their focus itself creates an aura of certainty that others can feel. Focusing on yourself also transforms your relationship with effort. You no longer feel exhausted by constant struggle because your actions are now aligned with your inner state. When your inner world and outer actions move in harmony, effort feels natural rather than forced. You experience a sense of flow. Your work becomes more efficient because your mind is clear. Your creativity becomes stronger because your attention is undivided. Your decisions become faster because you trust your inner direction. This state of flow allows you to accomplish more without feeling overwhelmed. You begin to understand that true productivity is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things from the right state of mind. As you continue living from this focused state, your past patterns lose their influence. Old fears that once seemed powerful now appear small. Old doubts that once felt convincing now seem illogical. You recognize how much of your former limitations were simply repeated assumptions that you accepted without questioning. And now that you have changed those assumptions, your sense of possibility has expanded dramatically. You feel less restricted by circumstances. You feel more capable of shaping your future. You feel more in control of your direction. This sense of control is not about dominating external events. It is about mastering your internal response to them. And this mastery becomes visible in the way you carry yourself daily. You walk with quiet confidence. You speak with clarity. You listen with calm attention. You act with purpose. All of this communicates a powerful message without words, that you are no longer scattered, no longer uncertain, no longer dependent on external validation. You are self-directed. You are focused. You are aligned. And as you continue to deepen this inward focus, each day adds another layer of strength to your identity. Each moment of disciplined attention reinforces your ability to remain centered, and each conscious choice to return your awareness to your own inner state continues shaping the unfolding reality that reflects the person you have committed to becoming. So let this be the truth you carry with you. The moment you stop chasing the world and start mastering yourself, everything begins to change. The moment you withdraw your energy from comparison, from doubt, from the endless noise outside, and invest it fully into your inner state, you step into real power. You do not shock everyone by forcing attention. You shock them by becoming so disciplined in your thoughts, so unwavering in your belief, and so calm in your focus that your life itself becomes undeniable evidence of your transformation. When you choose again and again to believe in your vision when no one else sees it, to remain steady when circumstances try to shake you, and to keep your attention rooted in the person you have decided to become, you move beyond ordinary living into conscious creation. And the strongest message of all is this: the world does not change you. You change yourself. And when you do, the world has no choice but to reflect the power, the clarity, and the quiet certainty of the person you chose to be within.